Aditya, you've been talking to a lot of Maldivian ministers, politicians and civil society members, and they're absolutely aghast at what happened, the utterances of their ministers. How does India ensure that these people-to-people ties that our panelists just mentioned, I mean, they're very deep historic ties between India and the Maldives. How do we ensure that those ties are preserved, in the storm of this diplomatic incident? How do you make sure that it's not damaged beyond a certain point?
Well, Sandeep, what I can say is that right now the ball is in Maldives' court, and it is for the president of Maldives to actually mend whatever damage has happened over the last 72 hours.
Right.
I spoke to Maria Didi, who's the former defense minister of Maldives, and Maria Didi not just said that the Maldives government needs to apologize and send a goodwill delegation immediately to India, but also said that the Maldives first policy cannot happen after compromising relationship with India. India comes first whenever Maldives actually looks outside their territory. So I think India has proved since the 60s the kind of humanitarian help that has reached out at a time when President Yamin was actually locking up the opposition leaders. India was raising their voice and saying that such human rights violation cannot be tolerated, and they stand for political rights. So I think people remember, and President of Maldives cannot really look the other way. That's why he has suspended those ministers, but perhaps it will take a little more, either a goodwill delegation or a formal apology. Otherwise the standoff will only continue and escalate, and perhaps Maldives, which has its economy completely dependent on tourism, cannot really take chances.
Absolutely. And in fact, Professor Singh, while we are talking about Maldives, it possibly is just a storm that might blow over, because sooner or later, as Aditya was mentioning, good sense will prevail. The fact is that India is the closest country closest to Maldives, and which renders all kinds of aid and assistance whenever called upon. But now the fact that you have Bangladesh, a pro-India government there, and it's been peace and stability there on the Bangladesh front for decades, and we're looking at Myanmar on the other hand, which is descended into civil war and anarchy. It's ruptured our land bridge with the ASEAN countries. We were talking about this land bridge, the ASEAN corridor, the road and port connectivity. Can Bangladesh kind of, in a sense, offset the loss of Myanmar, because of the civil war? The projects, the connectivity projects, can that kind of, to some extent, offset this situation in Myanmar?
Sandeep, Bangladesh for almost a decade now has come to be a role model for South Asia. There is a talk of the Bangladesh model now, in terms of Bangladesh almost entering the middle income level of being a country with that kind of per capita income. And with continuation of the same leadership, it means the similar programs will continue. And the fact that both leaders of India and Bangladesh are really close and they have very good chemistry with each other should mean that the relationship will be not just good for bilateral relations, but also together playing a role at the regional level. And India's complete focus shifting away from South Asia. You remember from 2016 November, SAARC is virtually dysfunctional.
At least BIMSTEC is kind of taken over. Yes.
And this has seen India moving much towards Bay of Bengal area, with BIMSTEC becoming an attractive connect, where India wants to play an increasing role. And since you mentioned of Bangladesh, BIMSTEC Secretariat is in Dhaka. In Secretariat, largest contributor country is India. So in that sense, that regional connect of India with Southeast Asia in a situation that, as you mentioned, Myanmar is right now, would perhaps see India-Bangladesh connecting much better and sort of connecting with the larger region around the Bay of Bengal, which would then include Thailand and Myanmar, of course, but larger other rest of Southeast Asia as well. Any two countries that begin to showcase, stronger growth rates and better social transformation will build several new partnerships, and that is likely to happen and is happening already between India and Bangladesh. But what I also, in few seconds, 10 seconds or 30 seconds, want to underline is the unique underpinning of emotional connect that India has with much of its neighborhood, given the shared history, shared ethnicity, language, culture, religion, all kind of things. And that is very unusual bind. So even if you see once in a while aberrations like what you see happening in terms of kind of comments that came from Maldives, which I also see part of the overall sort of deterioration of political discourse around the world.
Right.
People have become far more crass in the way they express things, and there is extreme need for caution, at least on our side on this. This will blow over. Already after his swearing in, the President Muizu was already talking of balancing his foreign policy, because he was seen unusually not owing to sort of, sort of more inclined towards China. He wanted to sort that out, but it suddenly happened that the kind of emotions and that were strong sentiments built during election campaign have resulted in some of his juniors really shouting out really unexpected language.
Absolutely.
And that perhaps is an aberration.
It's an aberration, and I want to ask General Kulkarni this. General Kulkarni, while we are talking about India's big gains in the east with Bhutan and Bangladesh, let's not forget that Bangladesh has got a big, very significant trade relationship with China, and China has made deep inroads there with a lot of investments. They're the top military hardware suppliers to Dhaka. There's $20 billion worth of trade. And at the same time, Bangladesh is experiencing some kind of economic headwinds, right? Their economy isn't doing as well. Forex reserves have dwindled, and they faced an energy crisis recently. What are the chances that they could fall prey to China's debt trap diplomacy? And in that case, what are India's imperatives?
Sandeep, fortunately, I think Bangladesh on and off has been saying it, that their interest with China are primarily for their own development and do not involve security. Having said that, of course, the Chinese have invested over $2 billion in the Cox's Bazar submarine project. There is a whole lot of projects which are coming inside Bangladesh, and Bangladesh has been taking a lot of economic assistance from there. The Padma Bridge, which was there, which was in doldrums, and which Sheikh Hasina requested China to help economically, and that was, back into power. So the lot of infrastructure which comes up in Bangladesh would obviously help us also, because that acts as a stepping stone for us to go to the northeast through Bangladesh. So that's a good thing, no problem with that. But yes, Bangladesh right now the economy is doing well, and they know that almost 58, what they claim that just about 1% of the GDP is China-based, even if it is taken to be that way. And the foreign debts aren't going beyond about 14%. And they feel that about 55% of the foreign debtors, then there's a possibility that they just might get caught in the debt trap diplomacy of China. But they're aware of it. They know what's happened with Sri Lanka. They know what's going on the world over in Africa and even Latin America. They understand what China is all up to. And hopefully, Bangladesh will not. I feel hopefully Bangladesh will not fall prey to the Chinese district. But yes, we have to be cautious. We have to cultivate people. We have to indulge in it. And there's nothing better than, as rightly brought out, the emotional connect, the people-to-people connect. Now, we need not tell Bangladesh again and again, or be able to tell them that, look, we helped liberate you. No, it was part of us. We did what we wanted to do. And what the Prime Minister at that point of time, Mrs. Gandhi, said, we've done our job, we are out of it. We never stayed there. We never even took an inch of their land. So Bangladesh is fully aware. Sheikh Hasina is fully indebted to India. But there is no requirement to say so, that, well, anybody is indebted to us, or we have done favors to you. We've done no favors. We did what we were supposed to do as your neighbor. We've done that, and we are out of it. And that is what probably Bangladesh appreciates, and that is why Bangladesh continues to interact with India.
Right, absolutely. And that's a great concluding line, General Kulkarni, that India does what India does because it does the right thing, especially when it comes to our neighborhood. And a big fillip to India's neighborhood first policy with India's big gains in Bangladesh and Bhutan. I'd like to thank my panelists, General Kulkarni and Professor Singh, Aditya, for discussing these important developments in South Asia. Thanks very much.
News9 Plus. Download now.